Welcome, everyone. As you just heard, today's topic will be how to make your game stay relevant. We've been making all sorts of mobile games for the market for over 10 years now. And today, we will start by saying who we are. So we're Nordcurrent. We're a game developer and publisher. We've been around since 2002. And now we're currently mostly focusing on mobile arcade games. So whether it's simulation or dress up, so as you can see, you might recognize some of these games, whether it's Pocket Styler, Murder in the Alps, Airplane Chefs, Cooking Fever, the game I will be talking to you about today, Murder by Choice, as well as Happy Clinic. So these are just some of the games we make. We also are focusing and expanding to PC and console. So let's begin. So Cooking Fever, as most of you have probably seen the game before, I will still give a short introduction. So it's an arcade cooking game. So the clients come to you and ask for a very specific order, and you have to fulfill that order correctly. So let's say the client asks for a hamburger with a salad, so you have to give them a hamburger with a salad. Obviously, the game is not as simple as you might think. These are only the starting levels. So, moving on. So, the stats and credentials of our game. We've been thriving successfully for almost 9 years now. We have over 400 million downloads only on Cooking Fever. We have around 7 million monthly users. And the players throughout these many years have served over 1 trillion dishes. And most importantly, we are endorsed and played by the biggest celebrities, like Khloe Kardashian. Small round of applause, please. Thank you, thank you. And Chrissy Teigen. But all this success didn't come overnight, right? There is some sort of recipe and rules that we did follow and things we had to invent ourselves. So over 10 years ago, Nordcurrent started experimenting with the cooking genre. And such a thing as a cooking arcade game genre didn't really exist. There were only just a few very simple flash games here and there, but we were the pioneers of the cooking arcade game genre. And we had to invent a lot of things. There was no one for us to copy, and there was no one for us to learn from. As our success became more and more huge, so to say, clones and copies started to rise, and the competition was brewing. Games were evolving extremely fast, so we had to pick up the pace, and mobile games started to age quickly. This was around almost 10 years ago, and as you can remember, the games we played 10 years ago, on average, don't really exist anymore. Even big hits, whether it's Doodle Jump or other games you may remember from that era. So, this was the first iteration of Cooking Fever. It wasn't actually Cooking Fever, it was called Happy Chef. So this was Happy Chef, it was a mobile game. The first 10 levels were free, and then you had to pay to play the game. This was a very common practice back in the industry back then. And the game actually had quite a large success, and the reason behind that success was because people really didn't have cooking games to play, and this was a very new genre, as mentioned before. So, since the game was being purchased all around the world and people really liked the levels, we started developing a better version of this game, which was Happy Chef 2. So, as you can see, the graphics have become a little bit better with Happy Chef 2. The table is already a lot more complicated, the dishes are a lot more complicated, and the players actually love that game. The players love that game so much that supply followed demand, and we knew that we had to take our game to the next level, because simple games like this simply didn't last even back then. So this was Cooking Fever in 2014. This is the marketing campaign for it. So this is how it looked like. As you can see, we already have 3 different pans and pots and whatnot. So in terms of difficulty, it was a lot more difficult game and a lot more visually appealing than our predecessors. And this is where Cooking Fever really started to rise up and stay on top of the market, because there was nothing like it on the market. And even the clones that started to rise, they couldn't compete with the graphics we had, the gameplay we had, and so on. More about this later on. So this is Cooking Fever today. As you can see, graphically, it has improved tremendously. Our artists are working extremely well. Everything is painted in 4K and scaled down, and we managed to optimize the game so well that it runs on most mobiles very easily on 60 frames or more. So, right, as mentioned before, our success came with competition. They saw that, well, there's some sort of cooking genre game that is always on top of the market, shown on the top list, and Chinese clones, European clones, and everything started to arise. And most of these games, some of them are a little bit different, but most of them are direct copies of Cooking Fever. They couldn't manage to code it the way we did. They didn't manage to implement the mechanics that we had, but they tried their best to take a share of our market. And as you can see, we're still the #1 search result, so we're still kicking and thriving. So, how did we do it for 9 years? It's a very complicated question, and there is no easy answer, but there are some cool ways that you can think about your product and your game and how to take it to the next level and keep it relevant for many years. So, as mentioned before, we still have market dominance. I gave you 2 examples. This is on the App Store on the left and the Google Play on the right. It doesn't matter whether you have Cooking Fever downloaded or not, and it doesn't matter which platform you are. And it doesn't matter if you search for cooking or cooking game. Cooking Fever will be the first search result. As you can see, the only reason on Google Play Cooking Fever isn't the first search result is because we have 3 ads that are paid for. So, how do we stay relevant? We have so many clones, and as mentioned before, we have very unique mechanics. So here, I'll give you an example. In Aloha Bistro, we have a very cool fishing mechanic where you have to time your fishing rod and catch the fish and serve to the client. So we're always experimenting with cool mechanics that kind of make sense, but yet doesn't really break the laws of physics or boundaries of reality. Then we have a well with a new mechanic where the players actually had to spin the wheel with their finger in a rotating motion for you to get the water from the well. So very interactive, very new. Not much has been done in even other games regarding these sort of gestures. And as you saw before, this is, for example, one of our newest restaurants where we have been experimenting with cool real-life ways that people actually cook food. So we kind of fantasized a little bit here. So you actually have to pour the lava and then cook the food on it. And when the lava cools down, you have to throw away the obsidian and so on. So, as mentioned before, we're much more visually appealing, and I'll show you. So, one of the key takeaway points from this whole presentation is your game has to look really good for the players to like it. Because most people are, just imagine a person who downloads a game and the game looks horrible. Even though it plays well, it doesn't give him the feeling that he's playing something he really, really likes. So here's an example of one of our newest restaurants, and here's it zoomed in. So as mentioned before, we draw everything in 4K and we scale it down for performance reasons. And I don't know how well you can see from back there, but even everything from the strawberries, they have little dots on them, and everything is incredibly detailed. So our artists are working extremely hard to give such a good end result and a good product. So we also had to iterate some of the things from the past. As you can see, we used to have 2D characters. Before, back then, they used to move like this and just say, hello, here's my order. And now we have 2.5D assets with emotions, sounds, and whatnot. It's incredibly cool. And the players are always talking about how the characters are so alive, and they all have their own characters. One character wants to growl at you, the other one's unhappy, and so on, or he gets annoyed easily. So little cool things we added. And Right, so we have over 10 years experience within the cooking genre. So obviously, more experienced developers within their genre can make better games. So this is another reason why we are able to do so. And speaking of our team, most of our team members have stayed for many, many years, so they know the market very well, and they know what's coming next. Right, so there's some points I want you to take away. Players and games evolve, and so should you. You should always analyze the market and take time to play other games. There are so many games that do a lot of things differently, and they do it so well. So there's always components you can take and learn from other games. You should use data-driven external and internal tools to actually analyze your game success, and also watch the market and how your competitors are doing. And yeah, basically just watch your competitors as well. It's extremely important if you want to stay on top. So we're also doing cool things to make the game more appealing and interesting for our players. Here's one short example. Many games have been experimenting with piggy banks and vaults and whatnot, and they had a very simple concept. You play the level, the vault fills up, you're able to buy that vault, or piggy bank in this case. And we wanted to always, with every update, to bring something new and bring something cool that's never been seen before. So this is just one of the examples how even the in-app purchases that we design are very different from the market. And if the Mr. Sitting there could play the video for me, please. We also introduced, with our newest update, we introduced boosters. And the reason why we introduced boosters was many people are able to pass our levels. However, as players get older and older, we don't have the same reaction time as young developers like us, and the game knowledge and the tactics, so we wanted to make it fair for everyone and to make the game as accessible to basically every audience. And those boosters can both be bought or obtained for free, so we're not really hurting the game, and we don't want to make the game easier for anyone. Right, so what we did was we truly cared for our players. This is a huge recipe of our success. As mentioned before in many talks today and yesterday, feedback is an incredibly important factor for you to consider. So you always want to make sure you listen to what your players have to say. Beyond that, there's even more cool stuff that we did that I'm not aware that many companies do. For example, we have a very generous support team. Let's say something goes wrong. Let's say for whatever reason, on very rare occurrences, the player didn't receive their purchase. We can easily track that purchase, but also, in addition to that, if there was any inconvenience to the player, we also want to reward him with a bonus for waiting, for whether it's like a server issue or something. We always give more just in case something happened. And we always trust our players and give them the benefit of the doubt, because sometimes things are extremely hard to prove. We have an involved community team. The community team always watches what's going on within the Cooking Fever community, within the groups that the players have, and listens to their feedback and reports to us, the developers. We have persistent quality assurance. You wouldn't believe how much they test and check everything. Sometimes even updates take way too long because we have to fix issues that we never imagined, and they do such a great work that we have actually managed to have our game not crash and be one of the top performers on the market. And of course, a lot of love from developers. We play the game ourselves, we watch our competitors, and we love the genre. Right, so here's some ideas what we did that you could do as well for your company and your teams. So we always tried new ways to reach new audiences, because in markets like this, a lot of people love cooking, but not a lot of people love gaming, not a lot of people love this and that. So these are some of the PR campaigns we had. So if you can please kindly play the video for me. All right, so this was one of the ads that we had. This was a live event in Australia where people actually came to where we had celebrity chefs, and they actually, had to cook the food according to what the player had ordered. The person, sorry, not the player. And yeah, so just cool things like this. So you have to think about things like that, and really anything is possible at this point. So not a lot of companies are doing promotions and real-life events, and so really try and see what works for you. So we had, speaking of promotions, we had promotions with Hell's Kitchen. This is how it would look in our game. So as you can notice, this one is not as relevant, but we have Hell's Kitchen up there, Hell's Kitchen up there. So these promos that kind of make sense within our game and our logic, we had promotions with them. Other promotions we had were FC Barcelona. We actually had a football stadium where the players would come and ask for food orders or merchandise from you. So, literally anything is possible. So you just have to be creative enough to think of ways you can use this kind of information. Coca-Cola, not a lot of games think about contacting such big brands, and like, are Coca-Cola going to text back and say, yeah, use our assets in our game? And yeah, they did. Here we are. We had Coca-Cola in a few restaurants for a few months. Things like this can happen. Hard Rock Cafe, one of our most visually appealing restaurants, from our promos, where the characters, custom characters, food from the Hard Rock cafes in real life, and so on. So, and most importantly, make and play content you would like to see yourself. Many games fall into this random mini game cycle nowadays. You actually want to make something that the players enjoy. When listening to our players' feedback, they're always very heartwarming. They're always saying, I love the game, I can't wait. They're always asking for the next update, and that's something you would want. You don't want your players to talk about negative stuff, so you always have to keep them in mind. Surprise the player with occasional generosity. Create a game with love. The players will notice, and fix long-lasting issues. And to finish off, we're always hiring. And if you really want to join the Cooking Fever team or any of the other games, there's a huge possibility you can. So please do, and contact us. So thank you. Time for questions.
Thank you, Martynas. Thank you. Thank you. So I think that we can open restaurants after playing in your games. Okay, any questions to Martynas about Cooking Fever or something else? No questions? Oh, come on. Yeah, we have 2 questions.
I don't have a question, but I downloaded your game
Okay.
because your story is to taste. That's
Okay.
all. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect performance. It works.
Yes. Hi.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Dmitry. One question about your competitors. Are you fighting with them on a legal battlefield, or just try to be better than they
Very
are?
good question. We had some examples where the people made almost the exact same game with the exact same levels, with the exact same restaurants. So we did have some legal battles, but obviously, in terms of legal stuff, even in the music industry, you can't always fight this because it's different enough not to be legally bound by law for you to kind of, sue them. But we did have some legal battles and texts back and forth with some developers that were literally stealing our game and rebranding it as like Fever Cooking something, and yeah.
Yeah, so clones is problem not about Star Wars, but about games too. Few more questions from myself. Hello. How do you think? Should the game react to external cultural events like coronation in England or last season of Game of Thrones? And do you set such things?
Well, it's a good question. Some games do. However, within our game, it's really hard to even think of implementing this. So, for example, the queen got coronated, and then, what do? We give crowns to the customers or something, and we don't want to also offend anyone, So whether it's a political event or, maybe somebody's not happy about some event, we don't really want to bring politics into any of our games. So that's why we kind of avoid that, and most other companies do too.
Okay, thank you for answer. And one more final question. Yeah, 2.
He's here.
Final questions.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
So you're always updating the game, always making new content for players to be interested. Have your teams ever feel now and then as like, I'm tired of making the same cooking game, I just want to make something new?
Well, it depends. I'll give you a quick story. When I joined Nordcurrent, I only thought of one thing. I don't care on one game I work on, as long as it's not Cooking Fever. And when I started to work on the game and realized like why people actually enjoy it, I started loving it more. It's a problem in the video games industry where, in general, people get bored of the product. Artists, game designers, or programmers get bored. And that's very, very common within the industry. And I wouldn't say we're an exception, but we're doing a little bit better, at least in my opinion, towards this. Trying to keep it fresh and update the game with better logic, so everybody's still interested.
Okay, thank you. And two final questions.
Hello. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation.
No problem.
You mentioned some campaigns with Coca-Cola and Hard Rock Cafe and some others. What did you expect from these campaigns? Did you reach the KPIs? What was the impact that you wanted?
This happened before I was actually employed, but I can give you a short answer that making brand deals obviously increases the amount of audience that downloads the game. So let's say we do a brand deal with Coca-Cola, maybe they post something, and a lot of Coca-Cola fans will see it and automatically download the game. I don't know about the KPIs of let's say the Coca-Cola lovers versus real gamers that download the game, but there's always benefits to having more players download your game. So that's why marketing campaigns and so on continue to this day.
Okay, thank you. And final one. Yeah, no more.
Hello, thank
Hi.
you for your presentation. So my question is, speaking about casual market of gaming, can you say that your art and UI is up to date? And did you try to maybe make some changes, or it is your USP? Thank you.
Well, I would say if you look at our competitors, the art is quite up to date. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement, and we're always improving the art, as well as the animations, as well as the user interfaces. We know we have some flaws, like, for example, user interface. We are always looking for a user interface designer. If anybody wants to join and fix some of the problems with the user interface, we would love that. So, yeah, hope that answers your question.
Okay, ačiū, Martynas. And it was really interesting case because we speaking not about game, but we speaking about brand. When people developing mobile games, they just developing games, not brands. That guys show us how to do it, how make one step from game to the brand. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.